Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima Idet, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Federal government approves 50% subsidy on agricultural inputs amid food inflation. Appeal Court upholds election of Kebbi Governor Idris, dismisses PDP's appeal. Plus, Hamas releases 13 Israeli hostages after 48 days in Gaza captivity. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. First in the news tonight, the federal government has approved a 50% reduction in the cost of agricultural inputs for farmers, aligning with the commencement of dry season farming scheduled for November 25, 2023. The federal government disclosed these in a statement released by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security today. The statement disclosed that the Minister of Agriculture, Boubacar Kari, will lead the launch ceremony in Jigawa State. It noted that the event will not only mark the commencement of dry season farming, but also involve the distribution of crucial resources such as seedlings, herbicides, pesticides, and more. Meanwhile, the federal government has kick-started the legal framework on cybercrime to combat the evolving challenges occasioned by the menace. The Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Justice, Beatrice Jedi Abba, met this noon at a legislative drafting retreat in Lagos. She noted that the increasing reliance on technology globally had made the shadow of cyber threats loom large. The Solicitor General, who spoke through the Director Legal Drafting, Patrick Oyong, added that as a result of the trend, the Cybercrime Prohibition Prevention Act of 2015 required scrutiny and strategic enhancement to effectively fight the challenges posed by cybercriminals. In the meantime, the federal government, through the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Adeboyega Oyetola, has expressed readiness to position the country as a maritime nation through the completion of key projects within the ministry. Oyetola made this known at an event held in Lagos while charging heads of agencies under the ministry to work to realize their deliverables. This was contained in a statement signed by the ministry's Director, Press and Public Relations, Olujimi Oyetomi. According to the statement, the event was climaxed with the signing of a memorandum which was led by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency's Director, Bashir Jamoh, and subsequently followed by other agencies' heads. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, George Akume, has inaugurated a committee to review the Public Procurement Act 2007 in line with current economic realities in the country. Akume, in his inaugural speech, recalled that the Public Procurement Act 2007 was signed into law on June 4, 2007 by the late President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua. The SGF explained that the Act provides the legal and institutional framework for the enthronement of transparency, accountability, value for money, and efficiency in the procurement of works, goods, and services within the ministries, departments, and agencies. Listing the membership of the committee, he named the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice as chairman, while members include the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Director General of the Bureau of Public Procurement, representative of the World Bank, and KPMG Nigeria as technical consultant, and the Permanent Secretary of the Cabinet Affairs Office as member and secretary of the committee. We move to Nigeria's leader now, where President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has assented to the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria DICON Bill 2023. According to report, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria was established on August 1, 1964 by an Act of Parliament and revised as the DICON Act in Chapter 94 of the Laws of the Federation 2004. The new Act also established the Defense Industry Technology Research and Development Institute, DITRDI, to create an elaborate scientific and research-based technological foundation for Nigeria's defense industry through the leveraging of combined multidisciplinary research from multiple military research institutes for application that leads to commercialization and the development of new military technology and capacity in Nigeria. The Act provides a comprehensive regulatory framework for the regulation of the manufacturing, distribution, storage, and disposal of defense articles in Nigeria. According to Ajurin Gelale, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria Bill 2023 was sponsored by the Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Defense, Babajimi Benson, APC, Ikorodu Federal Constituency. In the meantime, President Tinubu has approved the appointment of Desmond Akawo to serve as a Federal Commissioner of the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC. A presidential spokesman said in a statement that the confirmation is subject to the approval of the Senate. According to the statement, the new RMAFC Federal Commissioner, who represents Rivers State, is being appointed following the tragic demise of the immediate past RMAFC Federal Commissioner from Rivers State, Asandu Wena, earlier this month. The President urged the new Federal Commissioner to deploy his robust experience across tiers of government toward the comprehensive reformation of processes that will ensure the most efficient and productive utilization of all allocations to all three tiers of government in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Akawo has resigned from being Rivers People's Democratic Party PDP chairman following his appointment as RMAFC Federal Commissioner. We move to the Red Chambers, where the Senate Committee on Women Affairs, COAS, has called for national collaboration to eradicate violence against women and girls in Nigeria. The Senate Committee Chairman on Women Affairs, Iriti Kinkibe, made the call at the launch of the Orange Nigeria. Kinkibe said the project is committed to creating a society free from the scourge of gender-based violence, GBV, and is aimed at addressing the root causes of GBV through a collaborative efforts emphasizing inclusivity, education, and community engagement. She added that the initiative seeks to empower individuals to stand against violence by fostering open conversations. To the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives has called on its Committee on Emergency and Disaster Preparedness to review the activities of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to ascertain the extent of conformity with its mandate. It also mandated the same committee to evaluate NEMA's disaster response capabilities in terms of personnel competencies and response, as well as management infrastructures. The resolutions of the House follow the adoption of a motion by the member representing Ado, Okpoku, Obadibo federal constituencies, Philip Agbese. Agbese, while leading the debate, expressed concern about various complaints against NEMA by victims of disasters and stakeholders for its delayed and ineffective interventions. While adopting the motion, the House further mandated the Committee on Emergency and Disaster Preparedness to proffer recommendations on how to improve the agency's efficiency and effectiveness and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has vowed to investigate the utilization and impact of the 62 billion naira federal government intervention funds invested in HIV/AIDS control programs. He noted that the investigation would also be extended to funds donated by international donor organizations to the leprosy, tuberculosis and malaria control program during the Muhammadu Buhari administration. The chairman of the House Committee on HIV and AIDS, Tuberculosis, Leprosy and Malaria, Amobioga, stated this during the oversight visit of the committee. He expressed disappointment over the absence of the national coordinators of the National Malaria Control Program and the National Tuberculosis and Leprosy Control Programs during the oversight of the two agencies by the committee. To the judiciary now, where the Court of Appeal in Abuja has upheld the March 18 election of Nasir Idris as the lawfully elected governor of Kebbi State. The court, in a judgment delivered today, dismissed the appeal brought before it by the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and its governorship candidate Aminu Bande for lacking in merit. In a unanimous judgment delivered by Justice Ndukwe Anyanwu, the appellate court resolved all the 5 issues formulated for determination in favor of the governor and against the PDP. Justice Anyanwu held that the allegations of forgery of testimonial brought against the deputy governor of the state, Abubakar Umar Tafida, was not established as required by law. She also held that the issues of non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act in the conduct of the election could not stand because the appellants failed to prove how the allegations substantially affected the election. Justice Anyanwu subsequently affirmed the judgment of the Kebbi State Governorship Election Petitions Tribunal, which had earlier dismissed the petition of PDP and affirmed the election of the governor. Meanwhile, the appeal court sitting in Abuja has set aside the order of the tribunal which declared the governorship election in Kaduna State inconclusive. The court also affirmed the election of Uba Sani of the All Progressives Congress as the governor of the state. Sani had pulled 730,001 votes to defeat his closest rival, Issa Shiru of the People's Democratic Party, who scored 719,196 votes. Displeased by the outcome of the election, Ashiru argued that Sani did not score the majority of the lawful votes in the election. In the meantime, the Court of Appeal Lagos Division today affirmed the election of Francis Nwifuru as the duly elected governor of Ebonyi State in the March 18 governorship election. A 3-member panel presided over by Justice Jumai Sankey in its unanimous decision dismissed the appeal filed by Chukwuma Odi of the People's Democratic Party. The panel also resolved all the 5 issues raised against the appellant and dismissed the appeal for lacking in merit. Justice Sankey, in a lead judgment, held that the PDP and its candidate lacked the legal right to meddle in the internal affairs of the All Progressives Congress as it relates to the nomination of candidates. Elsewhere, the Court of Appeal sitting in Abuja has sacked the Speaker of the Bauchi State House of Assembly, Abubakar Suleiman. Suleiman was removed as the member representing Ningi Central Constituency in Nengi local government area of the state. In a judgment it delivered today, the appeal court ordered a rerun in 10 polling units in the constituency. And still to come in the news, Somalia officially joins East Africa Trade Bloc. To stay with us.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news around the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Many thanks for staying with us, and now to the rest of our news stories. Moving to Africa now, where the UN says funding constraint and rising humanitarian needs could force the UN's World Food Programme WFP to halt assistance to more than 1 million people in Chad, many of whom have fled the conflict in Sudan. Reports say Sudan's 7-month civil war between the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces RSF has forced more than 6 million people to flee their homes. According to the UN's refugee agency, some of those who have left the country included 450,000 who have crossed into neighboring Chad. Meanwhile, the Kenyan president has said his government is ready to privatize 35 state-owned companies, which is said were currently functioning inefficiently due to bureaucracy. In a bid to boost productivity, President William Ruto said 100 other firms were also being looked at for possible privatization. Ruto's announcement comes as the country is facing severe economic challenges, including high inflation and rising level of debt. Last month, the Kenyan government changed a law to make it easier to sell state enterprises to private companies. The IMF recently agreed a loan of close to $1 billion and urged reforms in public sector firms, including the power company and Kenya Airways, which suffered record losses last year. In the meantime, at least 7 people have reportedly died after they were swept away by a flooded river in southeastern Kenya. Reports say they were sitting on a log in the middle of the river while returning to their homes in Makueni County after meeting First Lady Rachel Ruto in Nairobi when the flood waters rose and took them. According to reports, Kenya, as well as neighboring Somalia and Ethiopia, are grappling with their worst flooding in recent history. And elsewhere, former Paralympic champion Oscar Pistorius is reportedly to be freed from jail on parole nearly 11 years after murdering his girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. Reports say he shot Steenkamp multiple times through a bathroom door on Valentine's Day in 2013, later claiming he mistook her for a burglar. Recall that Pistorius, now 37, was sentenced by a South African court in 2016 to serve 13 years in prison. The parole board has set his release for January 5, 2024.
Enough time.
The parole placement for Mr. Oscar Pistorius has been confirmed effectively from the 5th of January 2024. And I think that's what the victims have also affirmed with you. What will happen from now until the month of January 2024 will be what we call a pre-release program. That's where an inmate is prepared for life outside of a correctional facility. As some of you may expect that a person, not everyone will find it easy to adjust. So psychologically, you ought to prepare that inmate that not everyone will welcome you. Yes, others will open their arms to you, how to react when such things are happening. And also when they find going hard, how to handle such matters. And also how they ought to relate with the monitoring officials, because the reason for monitoring is not to punish inmates, but is to assist them in their social reintegration efforts. So for now, I think I'll want to end there, except to say, just like all other parolees, Mr. Pistorius will be monitored by our officials based within the system of community corrections, and until that will happen until such time that his sentence expires, because we always make it a point that parole placement.
On the foreign scene, Hamas has released the first group of hostages after 48 days of captivity in Gaza. This is part of the truce deal between Israel and Hamas that went into effect this morning. 13 Israeli women and children and 12 Thai hostages were finally freed today after an agonizing wait. Recall that they were kidnapped and taken into Gaza by the terror group in its October 7 attack on Israel. Israeli television reported that Hamas had transferred the hostages to the Red Cross. They were on their way to the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt. Going the other way were 39 Palestinian prisoners, 24 women and 15 teenagers. Israel is releasing them as part of the deal that paused the fighting in the Gaza Strip for the first time in 7 weeks. Reports say the release will be coordinated by the International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC. ICRC first received the hostages from Gaza to give medical care. In a related development, Israeli forces withdrew from Gaza's largest hospital, Al-Shifa, today. The Hamas-run health ministry said on the first day of a temporary truce between Israel and the Palestinian militants. The Israeli military raided Al-Shifa last week, targeting what it said was a Hamas command center in a tunnel complex beneath the medical facility. The Palestinian militant group and hospital officials have repeatedly denied the claim. Al-Shifa has been a major focus of Israel's ground offensive in the Gaza Strip following attacks by Hamas across southern Israel on October 7, which Israeli officials say killed about 1,200 people. Reports say since the Israeli raid, many of the estimated 2,300 patients, staff and displaced civilians sheltering in the Al-Shifa complex have been evacuated to the south of the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Israeli forces have detained the director of Gaza City's Al-Shifa Hospital, Mohammed Salmiya, for questioning a week after their controversial raid there. Reports say that Salmiya was held at the checkpoint as he evacuated patients to the south. The Israeli military said he was being questioned over evidence that Al-Shifa served as a Hamas command and control center, an allegation he and Hamas have denied. Meanwhile, heavy fire was reported around another hospital in the north. A doctor at the Indonesian hospital in Beit Lahia said Israeli troops had also ordered its full evacuation. The Israeli military said it was checking the reports. Elsewhere, chairman of Egypt's State Information Service, Dia Rashwan, says at least 98 trucks have so far entered Gaza through the Rafah border crossing. Rashwan said the trucks were among the 208 trucks that had entered the Egyptian side of the crossing today. The Egyptian official noted that Egypt would continue to receive groups of injured people from Gaza for treatment and facilitate the evacuation of foreigners and dual nationals who had been stuck in the territory. Meanwhile, right groups are preparing for the COP28 climate talks in the United Arab Emirates. With trepidation, fearing surveillance and detention under the oil-rich monarchy's strict criminal justice system. Highly attuned to international scrutiny, the UAE, where unauthorized protests are illegal, has said it would permit demonstrations in designated areas of the COP28 site, a far-flung development in the Dubai suburbs surrounded mostly by desert. Those assurances and a pledge to host the most inclusive edition yet of the United Nations climate talks have done little to assuage campaigners who say they plan to raise human rights issues during COP28. Meanwhile, President Vladimir Putin has today said that the West had a dangerous monopoly over artificial intelligence and Russia needed to rival biased Western chatbots with its own technology. Recall that the race to develop AI has heated up since the breakout launch of the ChatGPT generative chatbox last year, with Russia and China spending billions to rival the United States' dominance in the field. Putin told an AI conference in Moscow that some Western search engines, as well as some generative models, often work in a very selective, biased way and do not take into account Russian culture and sometimes simply ignore and cancel it. Meanwhile, Putin added that the monopolistic domination of such foreign creations in Russia is unacceptable, dangerous, and inadmissible, and urged Russia to be ahead of the curve. Still on the foreign scene, French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna has today said that China's cooperation is vital on ending the war in Ukraine. She encouraged China to continue working on its Ukrainian peace proposal while also ensuring that Chinese entities do not aid Russia in what she called the ongoing war of aggression in Ukraine. Meanwhile, after talks with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, Colonna said France is counting on the vigilance of the Chinese authorities so that no structure in China, particularly private, contributes directly or indirectly to Russia's illegal war effort in Ukraine. Elsewhere, former President Donald Trump has told Argentina's President-elect Javier Milei that he plans to travel to the South American countries so the two can meet. Reports say Milei's office did not give a date for when Trump intends to be in Buenos Aires. However, the inauguration of Milei, a right-wing populist who has expressed admiration for Trump, is scheduled for December 10th. Meanwhile, a news release from Milei's office said the president-elect received a call last night from the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, who congratulated him and pointed out his triumph by a wide margin in last Sunday's election had a great impact on a global scale. Away from that, China's foreign ministry has said that China is trailing visa-free travel for citizens from France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain, and Malaysia for a year. It said from December 2023 to November 30, 2024, ordinary passport holders from the countries can do business or travel to China without a visa for up to 15 days. The ministry's spokeswoman, Mao Ning, said the decision is to help promote China's high-quality development and opening up the country's economy. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Francis Adet. Good evening. It's Business News and my name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, Somalia was admitted into the East African Community EAC today as the 8th member of the bloc as it seeks to expand free trade across the region. The entry of the fragile Horn of Africa nation, which has a population of 17 million, will boost the EAC market to more than 300 million people. Somalia, whose president Hassan Mohamud was at the summit, joined Burundi, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda in the regional bloc. The EAC, based in the Tanzanian town of Arusha, where the summit was taking place, was founded in 2000 and works to encourage trade by removing custom duties between member states. It's established a common market in 2010. Still in Africa, Zimbabwe has emerged as the global leader of blueberry export, experiencing unparalleled growth according to the recent East Fruit report. Over the past 5 years, blueberry exports from Zimbabwe have increased by an impressive 63% annually, reaching a total of 1,200 tons. In 2022, Zimbabwe saw an 85% growth in blueberry exports, surpassing 5,000 tons, elevating the country to the top 15 global exporters list. The report outlines that new plantations are primarily established by investors from neighboring South Africa. These investors often diversify or relocate production to Zimbabwe due to highly favorable climatic conditions, access to high-quality water for irrigation, and cost-effective labor. East Fruit experts anticipate continued growth in blueberry exports from Zimbabwe in 2023, projecting a further 30 to 40% increase to reach 6,500 to 7,000 tons. Given the elevated price levels for blueberries resulting from a poor harvest in Peru, Zimbabwe stands to gain substantially from blueberry exports in the upcoming season. A significant portion of Zimbabwe's blueberries is exported to South Africa, possibly for subsequent re-export. The country also directly supplies fresh blueberries to the UK, EU, Middle East countries, and Russia. In Nigeria, Nigeria's economy advanced by 2.54% from a year ago in the third quarter of 2023, after rising by 2.51% in the prior 3-month period. It marks the 12th consecutive quarter of economic expansion underpinned by the non-oil sector, notably the services sector. Finance and insurance, information and communication, and accommodation and food services recorded the strongest gains, and the industrial sector. Meanwhile, the dominant oil sector contracted at a much slower pace amid higher oil production. The average daily crude oil production stood at 1.45 million barrels per day in the third quarter, up from 1.22 million barrels per day in the second quarter and 1.2 million barrels per day in the same period a year ago. On a quarterly basis, the GDP advanced by 9.7%. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. Today is the last trading day of the week, and the benchmark all-share index climbed by 177.63 basis points to close at 71,230.48 points, representing a one-week gain of 0.17%. Compared with the previous trading day, today's data shows a 3% improvement in volume, 24% improvement in turnover, and 4% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 39.2 trillion naira. In the aggregate, 119 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 33 gainers and 22 losers. Secure Electronic Technology led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 55 kobo per share. On the losing side, Thomas Watt Nigeria came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 44.39% at 2 naira and 8 kobo per share. Veritas Capital Assurance recorded the highest volume of 107 million traded shares. This is all in business news, and back to Francis Adet for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Thank you, Blessing Dixon. And still to come in the news, Chukwueze resumes training with Milan. Do stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Good
Glad to know you're still with us, and now to the concluding part of our news stories. We start from hell, where the World Health Organization, WHO, and all 36 states' governors will sign a compact agreement to improve healthcare service delivery in the country. The Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed stated this while briefing newsmen at the end of the National Economic Council meeting in Abuja. Mohammed explained that the decision to sign an agreement with WHO was reached at the council after a presentation on Nigeria's health sector renewal program by the coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate. According to him, the presentation looks at all the challenges in the health sector from financing, human capital, and a supervisory point of view.
There was even a resolution of council that the WHO is coming in December 15th. All the governors will come and sign a compact agreement in terms of service compact, where we'll be able to reiterate our determination to approach the health sector in terms of budgeting, giving it the required impetus, the required attention that it deserves. Today, NEC, ably led by the Vice President, our chairman, received a presentation from the Coordinating Minister on Health and Social Welfare on Nigeria's health sector renewal program, which looked and dissected in terms of very robust sector scan on health, from the tertiary to the primary level, looking at all the gaps, the problems and challenges of funding, and even of the need for renewed interest by stakeholders, mostly governors at the subnational level, experts, doctors, and everybody. The financing gaps that has been looked into, and the dismal numbers that has been shown as if we are drifting as a nation, because some of the numbers are very, very negative in terms of infant mortality and others compared to other nations that are even less developed than us. And of course, the renewed hope that the present administration is trying to establish in trying to bring synergy, to bring collaboration between all the various stakeholders in the country. And they are trying to make sure that they establish a compact in a manner that will be able to generate resources from everywhere. Certainly, we have huge problem of human capital and attrition of even our experts, and the need to develop a strategy to retain our own experts to take care of our.
Still in hell, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, has seized expired pharmaceutical products worth 15 million naira from a pharmacy in Jos, Plateau State. This is as the agency also confiscated unregistered alcoholic beverages worth more than 30 million naira from shops in Jos and in the nearby Bukuru metropolis of the state. A director of the North Central Zone, NAFDAC, Shaba Mohammed, who disclosed this, said the agency had earlier received reports that the pharmacy sold expired drugs. According to him, the pharmacy tampers with expiry date markings on the pharmaceuticals to revalidate their shelf lives. Mohammed explained that during NAFDAC's raid, it found a room in the pharmacy packed full of drugs with their expiry dates cleaned off, awaiting the imprint of new dates. Speaking further, Mohammed warned the general public against buying pharmaceuticals from unregistered pharmacies. And now for the latest sports stories, here is Utwe David.
Hello, good evening and welcome. In sports, Nigeria's Super Eagles winger Samuel Chukwueze has resumed team training with his Italian Serie A side AC Milan. Chukwueze missed a couple of games for the San Siro Giants and also missed the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier for Nigeria. He was among the Milan players who resumed training yesterday afternoon ahead of the resumption of the Serie A game this weekend. If not this weekend, Samuel Chukwueze is expected to be in action by next week for the UEFA Champions League game. The Nigerian international has been out of action since early October due to the injury sustained during an international friendly match involving Super Eagles and Saudi Arabia. Moving on, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta has said freedom of speech is crucial for improving the standard of refereeing in football and confirmed he has responded to a charge from the Football Association. Following his outburst after the defeat to Newcastle United this month, Arteta has branded the VAR decision not to rule out Anthony Gordon's goal in Arsenal's 1-0 defeat at Newcastle as embarrassing and a disgrace, which caused the FA to respond by formally charging the Spaniard. Arteta has formally submitted his thought to the FA in relation to his comment over Gordon's 64th minute goal, which ended Arsenal's unbeaten start in the English Premier League.
You learn from everything, that's for sure. No, but I think it's good that we are communicating. I think we want to improve the game. All of us, you know, referees, managers, official owners, sporting directors, you guys, we all want a better game, that's it. And to have a better game as well, we have to have freedom of speech, respectfully, in a constructive way, but we have to promote that. If not, you don't get better, that's for sure. And it's good that they are talking in front of the media and explain the situation. I think it brings clarity.
Finally, Millie Bright has been ruled out of England's UEFA Women's Nation League doubleheader against Netherlands and Scotland. Bright, who captained the Lionesses at the World Cup in the absence of Lee Williamson, will remain at Chelsea for treatment on a knee injury. Manchester United defender Millie Turner has been called up as a replacement and will report with the rest of the England squad at St George's Park later on Monday. The 23-player squad will face the Netherlands at Wembley Stadium on Friday, the 1st of December, before the Nations League group stage concludes with a trip to Scotland on Tuesday, on the 5th of December. And that's all we have for you on sports this evening. I am Mutabe David.
Thank you to David. On our entertainment news, American singer, songwriter and businesswoman Beyonce Knowles Carter, popularly known as Queen Bee or Beyonce, has just dropped the trailer of a Renaissance film set for release on December 1st. Reports say the pop star made the announcement during the live broadcast of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. She appeared via video message to introduce a trailer for her upcoming concert film Renaissance, a film by Beyonce. The trailer, released in full on YouTube, begins with Beyonce giving her and husband Jay-Z's youngest daughter Rumi a tip on how to hold the smartphone, a footage of the 11-year-old performing on stage as a backup dancer with her mom during her ongoing Renaissance World Tour, as well as footage of Diana Ross performing on Beyonce's birthday show in Sean. In a voiceover, Beyonce said it's a new beginning which has stemmed from sacrifices and struggle, and that she has nothing to prove to anyone at this point. Meanwhile, Renaissance, a film by Beyonce, is set for release on December 1st. Still on entertainment, Ghanaian singer and rapper Mohammed Ismail Sharif, popularly known as Black Sharif, has hinted at taking a break from music. A 21-year-old said he would further his education after releasing his sophomore album, stating that he wants to go back to school to learn clothes making. Recall that Black Sharif gained popularity in 2021 with his song First Sermon, which released that May. The song's sequel, Second Sermon, was released in July and received a remix with Grammy-winning Nigerian singer Burna Boy. Meanwhile, Nigerian maestro Flavor is set to unveil his latest sonic masterpiece with the forthcoming release of his single Big Baller Offering a sneak peek into his upcoming album, African Royalty, a single is slated to make its debut today, paving the way for the full album launch on December 1st, 2023. Celebrating the lavish lifestyle of affluent Africans, the track assures to captivate audiences with its distinctive fusion of high life elements. Lastly in the news tonight, rapper Oladipo Olamideji, popularly known as Oladips, has finally broken his silence via a live session with fans. Recall that the rapper, who was reported dead on November 15th, resurfaced online yesterday with a video of him debunking news of his death while vibing to his latest record, Ori. Speaking with his fans during a live session on Instagram today, the rapper promised to share reasons for the death hoax, adding that this would be as soon as he feels better. Meanwhile, he urged people to keep praying for him. And that's all we have for you this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima, edit. Many thanks for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your weekend.